Let's talk about something very important this morning and quite frankly, my favorite subject, sleep. Most of us are not getting enough of it and it could be impacting our mental health. Researchers at UTSA are studying the link between REM sleep and PTSD in first responders. I sat down with Professor Dr. Itamar Lerner to break down the importance his team is doing for this work. Doctor, I'm going to start off by saying, first of all, we all know how important sleep is, how much the human body needs it, but kind of explain to us not only the importance of it, but what REM sleep is.
Right. So sleep is not a uniform phenomena. When you're going to sleep, you're going through several sleep stages, which are generally differentiated to two general stages. One is rapid eye movement sleep, or REM sleep. That's the stage where dreams appear. It's also often called paradoxical sleep because when you look at the activation on the scalp, you would see the brain waves seem to be a little like wake, and you're asleep, but it looks like you're a little bit awake. So that's why it's also called paradoxical sleep. The other stages are known collectively as non-REM sleep, and they're themselves differentiated to three different stages. And it's been a big mystery, which science is starting to reveal what each sleep stage contributes to, and how are they working in synchrony in order for us to gain our rest, as well as reprocess things that we've experienced during wake in a way that allows us to reorganize them and remember them better.
For someone like me who I sometimes think I have dreams, but I don't remember them, does that mean I'm getting my REM sleep in?
So generally, yes. Almost always you do have dreams and you just don't remember. There's a very big difference between remembering the dreams and actually having them. Having said that, it's also possible that if you don't get enough sleep, for example, let's say that you only sleep 6 hours a night instead of what usually is recommended, like 7 or 8, you get less REM sleep, because REM sleep tends to be more prevalent during the second part of the night rather than the first part. You will get some REM sleep during the first part of the night, but the second part is more important for that type of sleep. So if you only sleep 6 hours, you're not getting the full second part of the night, and then you'll have a less chance of experiencing dream during REM sleep. It's important to also realize that we also dream outside of REM sleep. There are also dreams during non-REM sleep stages. However, the most interesting narrative-like dreams that we think of when we talk about dreams, they tend to happen during REM sleep, and you might not get enough of them if you don't get enough sleep.
Okay, so I'm guilty of having 6 hours of sleep. I know
as many of us.
Right. A lot of people are really busy, or, we procrastinate when it comes to bedtime, do all these things. And then you're like, oh my God, I have to go to bed right now to get a certain amount of hours of sleep. So you're saying that for an average healthy person should be aiming for about 8 to 10.
8 to 10 is a little, it's good if you get 10, but anything of 8 and above is considered to be good. And actually anything above 7 would be fine as well. It also depends on age. If you're in your 20s, aim for 8 and more. If you're in your 30s or later, aim for 7 or more. But so 10 is a little exaggerated. You don't really need to aim for 10 unless you're like a kid. But definitely less than 7 definitely less than 7 is starting to get to the area where you are not getting enough sleep, and that could have an effect on your health later on.
Okay, I definitely love that you and your team are doing a deeper study into this. Can you talk to me about some possible local agencies that you're working with to gather some data for this study that you're conducting?
Yes. So for the last 2 years, we've been studying, we have a particular project that tries to look at baseline levels of sleep, baseline patterns of sleep of emergency responders. So the idea is, or I should say, there's significant evidence to suggest that REM sleep, dream sleep, has something to do with the processing of stressful experiences. there is some evidence from my lab and a few others that suggest that also your baseline patterns, before you even experience these very stressful events, might already predispose you to process them wrongly in a way, or to process them not sufficiently, such that you have a higher degree of probability to develop post-traumatic stress disorder if you experience these stressful events. So it's not just the REM sleep that you have after you experience the traumatic event, but also what you had before. So I'm targeting emergency responders, for example, firefighters, police officers, and paramedics in the San Antonio and Austin area, mostly. So I've been collaborating with the San Antonio Fire Department, the San Antonio Police Department, with the Austin Fire Department, and the Austin EMS, and trying to see if people with baseline sleep patterns, particularly those with not a lot of REM sleep, could suggest something about how they deal with stress when they're starting their field work.
So I have almost a two-part question. One, what is something surprising that you have concluded thus far with all the candidates that you have studied? And then the second question being, what made you want to do research between PTSD and REM sleep?
So for your first question, I would say that we had two hypotheses. One, a little more straightforward, that is based on those findings that we found in the lab, and another that comes from a very different study that is predicting something not that expected. The findings that we have so far, and it's still, we're still in the middle of it. We will have final results only in a few years. But we found that the percentage of REM sleep that you have in your baseline sleep that measured over a week before you even began your training regime could predict the degree of post-traumatic stress symptoms that you had after you started to work in the field, such that if you had more percentage of REM sleep, like basically higher amount of REM sleep, in baseline, then you will react with fewer symptoms to stressful experiences that you had. So that part is the prediction that was expected based on the results I found in the lab. Another, which still needs to be examined, but I had some early signs that it might actually happen, but it's a little more surprising, is that REM sleep does not only help in a way, it's not just simply reducing your symptoms. It could actually also increase symptoms related to the phenomenon of generalization. For example, let's say that you had some very stressful experience in relation to a burned building that you had to take care of as a firefighter, then you might have stressful memories of that experience, but you might also have some kind of generalization to the point where how much would you take from that experience in the future when you're facing a similar situation again? And that might actually be a positive thing, because we want to be able to learn from things that we've experienced before to the future, as long as it doesn't overwhelm us. So it seems that REM sleep not only helps us deal with things that we experience in a way that doesn't put us in a too stressful mode after we experience those events, but it could also, so that means that REM sleep reduces our stress in general, but it could also increase our stress if we experience similar situations in the future, which is a good thing, because we want to be a bit stressed and kind of like at the lookout if we're in a risky situation in the future. My lab and my interest are in fact centered on basic research. They're not centered on clinical work per se. It's not about finding new remedies or new treatments for clinical conditions, but more about how the brain works. The main research goal of my lab is to see how sleep affects memory. So because I'm interested in how sleep affects memory, I became interested in how sleep affects memory and how it doesn't work in certain types of memories. And that immediately relates to PTSD. And that's why I became interested in emotional memories and PTSD.